I've got my 100. It is a little bit after 9 here in Party City in the land of smiles. And there's nothing quite like starting the morning off with a cool and refreshing carbonated beverage. So, one of the things that I do a lot, probably way too much, is test stuff versus actually doing stuff. So actually, I'm really just doing stuff today. And one of the things that I did today was, okay, so let's say whenever my body wakes up, and I couldn't get to sleep last night, so my body woke up about 6:50. I think I finally got out of bed. And that began my day. And at that time, I thought, all right, I'm just going to, do life, and then what time do I end up? So at the end of the day, if I wake up about 6:50 and I get ready and I have coffee with Gracie, Hi, Gracie. Thanks for the message, honey. Test mic. Then I end up basically leaving the condo and getting in the car, and I know this exactly, at literally 7:59 and 45 seconds, because when I turn on my car, as you might guess, the radio comes on, and it comes on 95 FM, which, of course, as you know, is the spot, and it is the best radio station in the whole entire world. Just ask me. And when that happens at just before 8 a.m., then the Thai national anthem plays. So I know that was about, and then I got here at the studio at about 8:30, and I was ready to go. So I'm like, okay, basically whenever I get up about an hour and a half later of doing things, and I had to stop by the office and pick up, another softbox actually, which I'll install later today and then test it on a different microphone. I'm still using the GoPro. And Fridays at 9 a.m. on Sup Mock Mock. Do you are you practicing your Thai, honey? And I also got an unsolicited update from a friend of mine who I haven't seen in forever, David from Southern California. He's an audio guy. He's actually a singer. And he's the way that I sort of describe him is he's a lounge singer. And I don't mean that to sound lousy. It's just that the sort of genre that he sings. He uses one of those really old Shure microphones. I think it's a Shure microphones. It might be an EV. I'm not totally sure. But the interesting thing about him is that he does that and he's in the studio. So he's like, hey, so if you move around the microphone, then it's going to go up and down like this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And that's because, again, I'm testing the part of this is testing when would I actually show up and when would I, what equipment should I buy and replace. So, Joe, great to see you, my friend. And thank you so much for saying hello to the beautiful Dr. Somerville. And, Richard, good to have you along for the ride, too. And so, Richard, here's the thing, right? I just wanted to reiterate that, or clarify that the last time you made a statement, you're like, hey, so when you see Mr. Mitch, tell him I'm sorry because we had a disagreement or whatever via chat or something. And then if I recall correctly, you said, oh, no, wait, just kidding. Or not just kidding, but I forgot it wasn't Mr. Mitch. Because I actually didn't end up saying anything to him because I recall that being one of your last comments. So anyway, here's the other thing, too, is I've told you guys, and you've probably heard on the air because I know you listen 24/7 to The Spot. TheSpot.fm, go to that website and download our brand new app, which is this bitchin' logo right there that our buddy from the Philippines basically created, our graphics guy. But I'm not live on The Spot because I don't necessarily want to go live there, even though we now have 997 people watching us on The Spot. Subs. We had 1,000 and then we had 998 and then I think I got back on and it was 999 and then Mariano had his son subscribe and we got up to 1,000 again and now we're back down to 997. And I don't know what the deal is, but that was sort of the status. And so anyway, so I'm not doing that. Mitch and Dawn, got it. Okay, sorry, good. I haven't seen Dawn. Have it, hopefully. Thank you very much. Hopefully all you other guys do. You have the app. Here's why I tell you that. Yes, my ego would really prefer if you guys listen to me right now. However, if you don't know, inside the app, lower left-hand corner, there's bkk.fm. Most of you guys know about bkk.fm because that actually started even before The Spot did, even before KISS, even before radio in Pattaya ever existed. So, inside there is bkk.fm in the app. And because your ears were ringing, Mitch, I thought I would go live. Here's the deal, though, is that I said to myself, I want to go live at 8 a.m. over in the studio. And, as I mentioned, I will message Mitch for him to come over. The downside is because I get here early, I actually need to lock the door behind me. And so because of that, I'm not able to, like, leave and go down and let you in. So what I would request is that you and I like chat the previous evening and we sort of agree on a time to meet somewhere. Because at the end of the day, yes, I'm in a townhouse and basically the first 4 floors are offices, but the 5th floor is the home of the guy who basically has this business and this home. And so I do like to lock the doors behind me. As you know, Thailand is ridiculously safe. And in fact, the homeless people that like sleep outside the door, one of them sleeps so close to the door, like I can only open the door about like, halfway. But it's interesting, the homeless experience here versus certainly the ones that I've interfaced with in San Diego is they're actually really nice. I mean, they're still Thai, right? And so anyways, he's like literally on his knees, right? And he's like whining me. And I'm like, dude, relax. I get it. You've had bad luck. So I went and bought him like, those pork strip thingies that have like the wooden skewers in them. I bought him some of those and then some sticky rice and I came back. Well, actually, I went over there for lunch and I had that. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. So I bought some more and I brought some back for him. So I give him this food. And I'm thinking he's going to be like, hey, thanks a lot, whatever. And here's the sad part, is this guy, like, ripped into this bag. Like, he literally hadn't, like, he was on a desert island and he just found, like, his first fish. And I got a little choked up. I mean, I was just like, wow, this poor guy, right? But the point is he's basically like my alley security guard. I mean, he's really cool in the sense that, like, I don't know how to speak to him because I don't know the language. But the point is that he's not threatening, right? So, I mean, if I left the door open accidentally, for example, it wouldn't be the whole end of the world. I doubt he'd run up here and, like, rip out my tuner and start, trying to resell my Composer Pro XL on his eBay account. But so yeah, what the hell is up with Richard Martin? No, he got names confused. Why would you bring that up on a public forum, Richard? He was just saying, because I mentioned to him that I was going to go hang out with you, and he says, "Oh, say hi to Mitch for me and tell him I'm sorry." So anyway. Hey, all right on. Yeah, I know. I'm totally stoked that Joe's here. Joe, remind me, it is 8:17 p.m. where you are in Florida. Is that accurate? Anyway, Mitch, so I'm going to send you a message and we'll decide on the next time to come up here because I want to hang out with you, dude. And selfishly, I totally want you. I got this second microphone. I got the Mitch phone over here, the Mitchrophone over here that you could speak into. And it'll be a good test, actually, because I don't have a decent enough mixer where I can run 2 microphones through the compressors. So one of them would be this thing, and the other one wouldn't be. And so we'd pick up a lot of white noise from this crazy-ass air conditioner. And, oh, hey, Ricky, what's going on, man? Hope you're well. Love your photos on Facebook. Oh, right, sorry, 10:17. I forgot. That's right. So anyway, I'm doing this now. It's a little bit after 9, but here's the reason that I was bringing up BKK.FM and the app and that sort of thing. So if you don't know, there's a podcast called the Bangkok Podcast. And Greg and Ed are the guys that do this, and they are ridiculously professional. If you've ever heard the Bangkok Podcast, like wherever you get your podcasts, I would submit that it is like PBS quality, meaning like Boston, New York City, San Francisco, Chicago PBS. I mean, the show originators, in the United States. Man, I got to tell you, I think that they do such a great job. Anyway, so I meet with Greg Jorgensen, and I meet with him in Bangkok because I'm up there, and I said, look, I have this like streaming radio station, but I also have this radio station down in Pattaya. And one of the things about Pattaya is Pattaya wants to know kind of like what's going on in Bangkok. Bangkok, for the most part, doesn't have a huge attachment to Pattaya, but there's many people in Bangkok that cruise down to Pattaya on the weekends, right? So anyway, so there's like what's going on in each. So I said to him, I said, look, I've got this radio station down there, but, there is some interest in what's going on in Bangkok. And the Bangkok Podcast, while it does center around the things that are going and happening in Bangkok, it is something that, they talk about other parts of Thailand. So I bring that up because today, Fridays, 9 a.m., and then I want to verify this. We play their podcast on bkk.fm. So 9 a.m. Friday mornings. And the reason being is because it comes out to the public, I believe, I want to say Wednesday. Tuesday, it comes out to their Patreons. But I tell you what, let me just quickly go over and check on the schedule at bkk.fm. It's a really cool show. Anyway, it's playing right now, and their topic that they're going over right now is tourism, how it's back in Thailand, but also how that affects people who live here regularly, right? How tourism affects the locals, as they say. And so I would not be heartbroken if you blew me off and went over to bkk.fm and started listening to the Bangkok podcast, because those guys are actually really cool. Anyway, so the Bangkok podcast airs on bkk.fm 9 a.m. on Fridays and 7 a.m. on Sundays. I initially also had it basically streaming as well as being on the air at 95 FM down here in Pattaya a few weeks ago. However, the feedback I got was not positive, and I'll tell you why. They have basically 52 topics that they go over every single year, right? And the thing that they were talking about at the time was Bangkok trivia. Now, if you've been living here for over a decade, specifically in Bangkok, you're going to know the answers to this question. But it was so alienating for so many people. They're like, dude, look, I'm here on vacation. Like, I want to hear about Bangkok and that sort of thing. But like what statue is next to Rama 5 and I'm like, so anyway, so it got removed from 95 FM. However, after listening to today's show a little bit this morning about tourism and how tourism's back, very relevant to Pattaya, right? So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start re-airing that again on Sunday. So Sunday, 7 a.m. Bangkok time, basically, if you're in town here, Mitch, 95 FM if you're near a radio at 7 a.m., if you're like commuting, that sort of thing on Sundays, or the spot.fm or bkk.fm. But ideally, you're like concentrated on the Spot brand via our app, and again, very easy to download at the spot.fm. So that's my 2.5 million cents on that topic. But so my buddy Shastaman, how you doing there, buddy? Love the new studio layout. Is that the one I went to? Doing great, Magic Mike. Power on, dude. Chest bump, my friend. No, this is not the studio you went to. He's actually talking about the studio that exists underneath the water tower or our transmitter site that I affectionately refer to as the chicken coop. Actually, and Mitch, I don't know if you've ever seen that. I know Mitch has obviously been all over, Pattaya cruising around. He's got a motorbike, has a car. But if you've ever heard of Deeden Resort, I don't know if you have heard of that. But anyway, so Deeden Resort, it's on Soi Khao Pai in South Pattaya. Soi Khao Pai Gao. Actually, Jeb. No, Ped. So 8, basically. It's basically like more like Soi Khao Pai 8. But anyway, and I will touch on this. I totally agree with that, right? I mean, it's like if there's definitely no need for drama on Live My Ass Off, because guess what? If you're not living the dream, say it with me, guys, you're doing it wrong. And yeah, that's one of the, it's funny because Mitch and I will talk about that a little bit, even though we don't meet a lot, which is, emotionally disappointing for me. And selfishly, I wish there was more time in the day, quite frankly, to meet with Mitch, as well as, fly back and have a cheeseburger with Joe, but the commute is a little bit of a bitch. But anyway, yeah, so that's a good, so wait, yeah, you're still on daylight savings time. That's right, 12 hours. And I remember that because once it's November 1st that we do daylight savings time back in the U.S., right? November 1st and then what? April 1st? I think it goes back. But anyway, yeah, the 12-hour difference, because I know that that makes it a little bit more convenient math-wise for me when I'm going to call my folks, because then it's like I wake up 7 in the morning. I'm like, oh, cool, it's 7 p.m. there. That's really easy. But They're 11 hours behind right now. So there you go. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. And so this is my buddy Brian, by the way. Shasta's on Life is Good. I hope I didn't ruin his pseudonym. Facebook handle, Brian C., a.k.a. Steve Austin. I'm a huge fan of Steve Austin. And here's the thing that I talk about the Cool Kids table, right? Well, let me tell you guys something. If you are going to be part of the Cool Kids table, eventually you're going to meet Brian C. And when you meet Brian, if you get to the level of awesome sauce that you're basically bathing in on a regular basis, then you're going to know what Steve Austin means. But until then, you just want to call him Steve. I would actually call him Dr. Brian. How's that? Because he worked in the medical field for a while. Indeed, BangkokPodcast.com. Let's do that again. I think I did that correctly. 7 of you watching, thank you, and listening, thank you. I really appreciate that so much. And, oh, hey, dude, what's going on? I'm glad you're back. I'm honored. Okay, I know this is going to sound like I'm blowing smoke, but I'm not joking. So COVID happens, right? And I wasn't like a real popular YouTuber, but I was a YouTuber, and it was a good portion of my life over here in Thailand. The Thailand topic was a good portion of my life for YouTube videos when I would come here on vacation, and then I would talk about it when I would go home. And also, Ricky, I really appreciate this. I mean, who doesn't like praise, right? But I will tell you that I also appreciate truly constructive criticism. Like, Mike, you don't just say, Mike, it sounds lousy, because that doesn't help me at all. Mike, there's way too many highs, or every time you touch the microphone it makes a noise. Don't do that. Yeah, okay, great. Give me a solution. That's freaking awesome. And so anyway, so thank you for that. I appreciate the explanation specifically to the clarity, because that's what I'm looking for. And I don't want it to be too hot like this, I'm like inhaling helium, which of course, as you know, I do on a regular basis, so that my voice will sound even that much higher because it's just so low by default. So COVID happens, and a bunch of us are doing now live streams. Now, for me, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm now back on the radio, right? Because I'm like live streaming. Additionally, I'm in lockdown in Bangkok, and so I can't go anywhere initially. And then they would basically say, well, you can go, like, so for example, there was lockdown and there was curfew. But I had an earache, and so like I walked outdoors, I got on the BTS. Yes, I wore a mask the whole time. I went to my hospital. I had the ENT specialist look at my ear, did whatever they did. I left. I took the BTS home, middle of the day, walked back to my condo, went inside, and I wasn't like harassed at any given time. It's not like they stopped me and asked for ID. But there was, definitely, it's like, look, dude, you really should stay home. So, of course, I'm getting all my groceries delivered. Gracie, unfortunately, she's back in the Philippines at this time. So, anyway, my point is I start doing live streams. And as part of that, if you do live streams, and I know I'm going to sound like I'm blowing smoke, but I'm not kidding. Mr. Mitch shows up on your live stream in the chat, and you're like, I'm like, I've made it. And I know that it's going to sound a little silly, right? But I'm not joking, because like he's this moderator that shows up on at least, sort of my peers' other live streams. And at the time, one of my peers was Dana, and then he and I did our thing together, and then we didn't because of COVID, and then we tried to do it again, and then I was traveling again because I finally got my wife back. Thank you, 2 weeks of quarantine. And so I started traveling, and so then I couldn't go to his studio and do it, and then he and Jib, I think, got COVID along the way. Anyway, the point is that we never sort of, solidified Bangkok Strange any longer. But so Jeremy, he was like sort of one of my buddies that were doing these live streams, and I believe he was doing them, I want to say Saturday and potentially Sunday in the mornings from his living room. But Mr. Mitch would be on there, right? And so then I started like watching all these other live YouTubers, because that's basically all we could do. Like, none of us could go outdoors. Well, so I'm stoked. Like, I'm in my element. I'm ordering all this gear on Lazada, and then like when I'm not, and then I started doing marathon live streams, and it was really. I know you think it. I'm not kidding though, dude. I mean, I know it does sound silly, but it's kind of like. because I'm not into the homophobia nonsense. Oh my God, you really like Mitch, and you love his beautiful cheeks or whatever. It's like no. First of all, he's a really good guy, but secondly, it's like this guy who's basically, before you moved here, right? I mean, you're known as like the Thai vlogger, live stream moderator. Like he shows up, and anyway, and then here's the second time that I was really stoked that I like got to meet Mitch, but before I met Mitch, is he and like it was 2 or 3 other guys, and they're on a live stream, and people are doing the Zoom. So there's like 3 squares, 4 squares, whatever, and Mitch is one of those squares. So I'm watching this live stream, and I come in and I'm like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And Mitch, he says, "Oh, it's Mike's," as in Mike's and Gracie. And I was so psyched because look, when I met Gracie, obviously I changed my tune on life in a big way because she was that obviously my mate, right? She was the team. She was going to be 50% of Team Awesome, which we call now Team Asawa. But the point is that someone like watched me or knew enough about me to be like, oh, it's not just Mike's, like it's Mike's and Gracie. So anyway, I know that I'm going on and on about topics that arguably don't really sort of relate to Thailand. But one of the things I mentioned in the last live stream was meeting foreigners over here, expats specifically. And sadly, my experience is about 50% of the people I meet are just they're not my type. and it doesn't, it didn't mesh. But in any case, so that's my buddy, Mr. Mitch. There you go. Let me get some back to these. Hello, Dr. Photon. Hello, Captain Photon. How you doing? Remind me where you guys are, because I know that obviously Robert is either in California or Missouri. I know that Joe is down in Florida, but I can't remember where Captain Photon is. Thank you for saying hello to one another. And of course, welcome to the Cool Kids Table. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for coming by. And Mariano from Germany. Hello, Germany. How you doing there? Yeah, I'm live on Facebook over on my page, as well as I want to say the Live My Ass Off page, which again, I'm probably going to turn some of that off. I'm on bkk.fm on YouTube, but ideally and hopefully most of you guys are watching me on YouTube for Live My Ass Off. That would be probably the best thing. But yes, indeed, live on Facebook, facebook.com/amazing mics. Just ask me. So I'm here. It is, let's see, it's about 9:30 in Party City. And I get that. You're blushing, which is good. I'm glad you updated us. But anyway, my point is that starting this whole live stream thing, basically started being on the radio again, has really opened up my world. And so when a radio station came available a couple of, years ago, quite frankly, in the sense that it was off the air, and I'm a tech guy, and I'm also a radio guy, and I have a radio face, so I called the guy, and I said, hey, look, can I work on 91.75 KISS? Can I get it back to thing? Can I fix your transmitter? And we did a whole bunch of that, and it was great. But then at the end of the day, if you know, right, COVID basically just kept sort of lingering here in Thailand. And so because of that, it was like, well, this isn't really working out, and I don't need this any longer. It was a station that had less coverage than I wanted. But additionally, 91.75, what I realized after a whole bunch of sort of research is that, yes, there are several radios, meaning, several 100,000, that actually can pick up the 0.75, but there are also radios that can't. And so it's like, over here, if you don't know, it's point even number, basically, whereas in the U.S. it's like point odd number, right? So our FM is 95.0, and sort of the equivalent of that in the United States would be 95.1. Anyway, so so Robbie and I got together probably about 2 years ago now, met for coffee, and he's this new YouTuber guy who basically came over here in November of 2021. He had been watching me, and he'd been part of the live streams. And so he and I, met up and then basically had this idea. Let's take KISS. Let's really make it into something other than just an FM radio station. Let's do some marketing. Let's do Facebook. Let's do YouTube, TikTok, and all this. And then, of course, fast forward, and here we are doing a morning show until about spring of this year, where I needed to sort of make some changes and do some things that existed in Boston, which didn't afford us the ability to do a live stream very well, when A, he was here in Thailand, or B, when he was in California. So that's just the way it went. So here we are today, and I miss Mitch too. He used to be on everyone's cast. Yeah, but then, I mean, again, like I said, right, once you live over here, it's sort of like, well, I'm over here, so I'm not really sort of paying attention to the guys that are sort of publishing content for people that aren't over here. And that's how I sort of label a lot of the YouTubers over here. Okay, so this is a really, really cool story. I'm glad you brought this up, Joe. Mike, do I still have little Gracie? So you guys are like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, she's literally half your size. She's a 44 kilo Asian woman. And I'm a 94 kilo white bald dude. So it's kind of like Fred and Wilma when we go on. I got my, my tummy, and Gracie's this like, super thin, and she's got, the necklace. Anyway, so it's COVID-ish, right? And Dana and I are doing Bangkok Strange, which I totally missed, by the way. But it's just like, I mean, it's a scheduling thing. Dana believes, and I absolutely totally agree with him, that our sort of our presentation, it gelled infinitely better when I was physically at his studio in his house, which I believe he actually has sort of reconditioned and made it into a room for his son, who I believe was here like over the summer. So he probably doesn't even have a studio any longer. Anyway, but we're doing Bangkok Strange. And Joe, being freaking awesome, comes over to the Bangkok Strange podcast, and he's like, on the chat and everything. Very supportive. Thank you very much. And Jib, Dana's wife, and the days are ticking by. I mean, it's like 100, 200, 300 days I now have not been with Gracie. We chat every day, of course, but she's in the Philippines, and I'm here, and I'm there in Bangkok. And so I don't realize that he's doing this. But Joe, I mean, he's communicating with me, and he's also communicating directly with Dana. So what he does is he reaches out to Dana, reaches out to his wife, Jib. Jib has this YouTube channel called Knit by Jib. And so she knits, right? And she crochets, or I don't know if she crochets. But anyway, she sews, right? And so that takes on various forms, which of course is crocheting, knitting, that sort of thing. And then she's doing a ton of Thai art lately. But in any case, embroidery, Thai embroidery. So anyway, so Joe commissions Jib to make this literally little Gracie, and it's made out of, yarn, and knits it, right? And it's cute, and it's basically the size of, I don't know, it's basically the size of like a mouse kind of thing, right? And but it's all, fabric, and it's awesome. And I should actually have a picture of it regularly by my side. So I'll get one of those, I promise. But anyway, so we're on the air, and Dana and I are doing the show. And then Jib walks in, and she gives me this little Gracie that Joe had paid her to make for me. And it had been at least 200 days, if not 300. And I mean, I'm not going to say I lost it, but I absolutely was just over. I mean, when I talk about a gratitude attack, I was just overwhelmed with the emotional support that effectively Joe instantiated by making this, having this little Gracie made for me. So where is little Gracie? Well, little Gracie basically travels with me wherever I go. So that means that she was like literally underneath my monitor in Hingham, home, Boston, when I was there over the summer. She is currently, I don't think she's in this studio, but she might be at the transmitter, because it's also like a good luck thing for me, right? Because I'm not going to lop the arm off of a rabbit and throw that in my pocket and say, oh, yeah, this is really good luck. But, like, what's the joke, right? It's like, well, yeah, rabbit's feet are really good luck, unless you're the rabbit, right? But anyway, Joe, thank you so much for doing that. You have no idea. Additionally, Joe went out of his way and paid a ridiculous amount of shipping, I'm quite certain, and sent me Baby Ruth candy bars, Werther's Original candies, and I want to say Abba Zaba. Is that what that's called? Do you guys remember that? I can't remember what that's called. Hey, what's up? So did we determine that you, in fact, are Rike? I can't remember who's watching me over on Twitch, but thank you, because, I mean, that's a medium that's very easy to just sort of click one button and stream over there, but I don't really know if I have much of a following over there. I live my ass off on Twitch, but thank you very much for coming by, because it's 2 days in a row. I really appreciate it. That's right. You're from Denver. Okay, so Denver, basically, you're looking at what? 7:30 at night or 6:30 at night right now? I think it's 6:30 at night in California, but Denver, so that's probably 7:30. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh, dude, are you kidding me? You're more than welcome, buddy. Absolutely. Cop with my cop, mate. my dear friend. Yeah. Oh, so you're in Munich. Why did I think you were in Berlin? Maybe because we like talked about doing stuff in Berlin when you were like, working there or whatever. California till I leave Sunday morning. Ooh, very good. And so is that over to, remind me, is that coming over to Thailand or is that going to Missouri for a little bit? I can't remember what the status of you is, but I'm stoked for you to come back, man. Are you going to be coming to Jomtien Beach before? If you don't know, so Robert Mack, right? So he's well known in sort of the YouTuber community. But he like swings by. Robbie and I were doing a live stream at Wombat and Kiwi Bar on Jomtien Beach. And Robert came by with one of his shirts, one of his spot shirts. I was like, dude, this is totally awesome. So Robbie takes a picture of it. So then Robert, he basically became the model for the spot shirts, And had I to do it over again, I probably would have been like, there's a 30-year-old young lady over there. She might be a good model too, Robbie. Just throwing it out there, But no, Robert's awesome, and I really appreciate the fact that that he models our garb. It's very, very cool. The Abazaba, right? Was that what they were called? Okay, I couldn't remember exactly what those candies were, but it's kind of like it was like a chewy thing, right? And it was one of those deals where it's like every time you bite into that, you think to yourself, "What did my dentist tell me about this?" This is a bad idea. That's something with my dentist that always said, "You know what, Mike? Here's the thing. I'm not going to give you any lectures or whatever. Just floss around the teeth you want to keep." Good advice. I think I could probably go with that one. I did look lost without my Gracie during COVID. I will say that I appreciate that. 740 California. Very cool. Yeah, so 2 hours. Sorry. I wasn't lost. I was disappointed. And it was one of those things, I guess, what's the statement? You don't know what you got, leave what you have till it's gone sort of thing. Because it definitely wasn't an out of sight, out of mind. Believe me. Absence makes the mind grow fonder, or heart grow fonder. I get that. But the good news, at least, because, there was COVID, right? And a lot of things happened in COVID that were the first time for a whole lot of people. And, one of them was mask wearing. If you're from Asia or you've been to Asia, then you're like, okay, yeah, well, I mean, it's not like I've never seen people in public areas wearing masks before. Okay, fine. And it was a drag to wear one, but it's like, all right, well, I'm going to be part of the community. I'm going to do this. And the other one was being away from loved ones, right? And then, of course, these silly things like, I think there was like a Thanksgiving in the United States where they're like, okay, you can have Thanksgiving, but you can't have more than 6 family members over. And it's like, what? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get in debate about the weird decisions that a lot of people made, again, doing something for the first time. It's not like they had the COVID manual. Anyway, it was not awesome, but it wasn't something that Gracie and I had been foreign to. And so when we first met, I think we hung out for, I want to say it was less than 2 weeks for sure, because I met her, or I was introduced to her, I think, and never physically saw her, but then flew from Boracay over to Dumaguete to meet Rike for the first time. Dumaguete, I didn't really gel with. It's like a city, and basically the beach was was this massive concrete wall. It was gross. It's not nice. I'm sure you can go way north of Dumaguete or way south of Dumaguete, and it's got a beach of some kind that's nice. But I'm looking out across the water, and there's this island called Sikihor. And so I cruise over there, and I really liked it over there. I had this great little bungalow thingy, and of course it's COVID, so I got the whole place to myself, right? So that was great. But anyway, I'm hanging out. Or, sorry, what am I talking about? It wasn't COVID. It was like 2015. Anyway, I had the whole place to myself. And so it was nice. And every morning they walked out there and they used palm fronds to basically sweep the beach. And, they got any sort of, seaweed or anything off. It was a very nice place in Sikihor. If you guys ever go to that area near Dumaguete and you want to have a place to stay, I can absolutely recommend Treasure Island. It's absolutely a great place on Sikihor in the Philippines. So I'm there and I'm chatting, right? And I've got literally so this is, the Philippines, of course, but it's like 2016, maybe 2015, 2016. And I'm chatting with Gracie and I'm like, all right, well, I tell you what, if you're going to be there, I want to meet you. I'm going to fly back to Boracay. So I extended my vacation from work for like 2 more weeks, cruised back to Boracay, hung out with Gracie for a little bit, and she was busy. And then I was just like sort of hanging around. And we finally got together and talked for a long time. We had this really neat chat in an afternoon, probably for a couple hours, at the lounge chairs that were right in front of this resort I was staying at, and then, the umbrella and everything, and we had to, like, shift the chairs, like, every 15 minutes because the sun was so intense and the umbrella wasn't large enough. But we talked for long. It just felt really awesome. But unfortunately, because of that, we were basically together before I left Boracay for, a few days, really. So my point to all this is that so we chatted for a long time. And every single day we chatted. I was supposed to get back there in March. I didn't because the plane literally fell out of the sky. And Philippine Airlines, shocker, not super competent, but nonetheless, I ended up getting back to Cebu, where we met basically up for the first time in, I want to say, 2016. But I literally flew around the world to get to her because in San Diego, I went from San Diego to London to do something briefly. I don't even remember why I was there. But then from there, I went down to Barcelona and I had a conference in Barcelona. And then from Barcelona, I flew over to Istanbul for a layover. And then from Istanbul down to Phuket. Down to Cebu, where I finally met up with her and we hung out. And this was in September, I want to say, of 2016. So it was like, this isn't awesome. And then we hung out. I was there, I think, maybe 5 days. And then I had to get on a plane and I had to fly back to San Diego because that was my current commitment in life. I would come to San Diego. I will work for this university. That was my job. And so I was back in San Diego, and then there we were chatting again. And then I think the next time we saw each other, I want to say is over Christmas of that year. So it wasn't as long, but the point is that our relationship sort of started by not being physically together. So while imperfect, it wasn't like, okay, well, this is like totally weird, I don't know about you guys, maybe this happened in your life, but I had a ton of buddies say, dude, ever since my wife and I were together, or ever since we got, it was like we've never have been apart for more than 24 hours, or we've never been apart for an entire week. And interestingly enough, like if I were to look back, and I'm going to make a massive assumption here because, of course, my memory is lousy, but also I'm sure my parents haven't told me 100% of every single thing they did since they met. I've gotten a lot of the details, of course, but, whether they ate like at this one burger place in Vancouver that could be a detail that I don't know about. But the point is that I would argue that I don't think my parents have been apart for, I want to say maybe 2 weeks. And that was sort of like when my dad was probably going to California for business, and then he would also go to California for family. But then also, I think my dad was out in California. My mom also came out. So anyway, so the bottom line is that, you're talking like 65 years of marriage, right? And I will say, like, I'm 100% sure there is absolutely no way my parents have ever been apart for an entire month. That is an absolute guarantee. And I would argue that that's the case for a number of relationships, so it's just, it's just sort of interesting. But I mean, it's an interesting point, Joe, because I remember, so Dave, right? Gotta love Thailand, Dave. Okay, so Dave is like a YouTube watcher, and then he moves over to Phuket and lives and hangs out a little bit near Rob, 20 seconds in Thailand, Rob. And then he comes up sort of this way, and he and I are chatting and everything, and then it's COVID, right? So he discovers that there's this thing. I believe he's the one who told me, or maybe I told him. I don't remember, but I remember it was with Dave that we sort of learned about this. The Air Asia travel pass, right? So I mean, again, all these airlines are bankrupt. It's COVID, and it's a disaster. And so they're like, look, we got to get some people here. So Air Asia comes out and they say, look, you're in Thailand. You can only hang out in Thailand. We've got planes in Thailand, but we can't go in and out of Thailand. Neither can you. But if you're in Thailand, you can fly anywhere in Thailand. And I swear, if Dave hops on, he can probably remind me. But it was like $100, or it was like $2,000. I mean, it was just so cheap. It was like, look, dude, pay this one fee for, like, let's say for the sake of argument, $100. And you can fly anywhere in Thailand, within Thailand, in any flight, basically, with 2 weeks notice. And it's basically, it's free in the sense like you're paying the tax. And if you don't know, the tax on air travel here in Thailand at the airport, it's like $4. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's free. And of course, because of my height, I would always pay the extra money, and which again over here is only like $15, $20 to get the extra legroom seat in in the emergency exit row. Because as you know, I mean, AirAsia and Cebu Pacific, these like super ultra low cost carrier airlines, I learned later on. I just thought they were low cost carriers. No, there's actually another classification. It's ultra low cost carriers. And these guys, they exemplify that more than anybody I've ever met. And their customer service is horrible and essentially non-existent. But when you can get it, it's horrible. And they do not make it. They make it very easy to go next, finish, give them your credit card, purchase, give them money, and get a ticket. They make it impossible, also financially retarded, to basically make a change to your flight. It's better to just like throw it in a fireplace and make a new reservation. They're rarely on time. Even during COVID, when there's like no one else in the airport, their flights would leave late. I'm like, what is wrong with? But at the end of the day, I could fly anywhere. So Dave and I meet up, and I believe I'm trying to remember where we met. It's a city on the coast on sort of the west side of Thailand, and I can't remember where it was. But anyway, so we met up there, hung around, and of course Dave's a motorbike guy, so he got like this really cool motorbike, and I got like a little Honda Click. And we cruised around for a little bit, and then he went off and did his thing, and I did my thing, and then we got back together. I took a train we met at an airport, and then we flew home, and so that's sort of how I got connected with him. But there was do you think he would be? Do you think Mitch would be a good model for the T-shirt? I think he would too. Actually, I mean, I should absolutely get him one. I know we had a limited printing. We need to get a new logo and a new print, a new run of shirts anyway. Because when we first made those, we didn't have 95 FM. So that was sort of the deal with the Mini Gracie, Mini Gracie. Robert's going to be in Vietnam November 13th, staying until March at least, and we'll be in Thailand also. Very cool, man. Thank you for also watching over in the office, Mariano, on YouTube. Appreciate it, bro. And I would agree, Robert Mack. Yeah, Joe and Robert sitting in a tree. KIS. Maybe not. Okay, I'm not going to sing that whole little anthem now, am I? Giggles all around, ladies and gentlemen. The shirts are nice and comfortable and a great design. So I can blame Robbie for the wild success of that shirt. We both found this printer, but he basically took it and did whatever he needed to do with it. I don't understand or really have any sort of passion around interfacing with people that make shirts. I don't know why. It's just not a thing for me. Bumper stickers I think are kind of neat, but again, all you got to do is send them the logo and then they take care of it 1,000 bumper stickers later, right? But yeah, they are pretty comfortable. I'm glad you like them. I love stories, my friend. You love my stories. Thank you so much, dude. It's so if you don't know, when I started in radio, there was a couple of things that you kind of had to do at the time. First of all, you didn't broadcast the way that I do now, meaning that I use the words and a lot. You were not allowed to do that when I was doing it. So you had to talk without using any of those sort of, injections, right? But additionally, one of the things that I was taught to do, which helped me a lot, stand in front of the mirror and out loud talking to yourself, orating, basically, projecting. You got to be able to make the people in the back row hear you from stage without an amplifier, sort of thing. I think I've accomplished that. I don't really have an indoor voice. So thank God for this soundproofing. So even though I'm on the third floor, there's 2 floors above us. I want to make sure that when I get really excited, that I don't wake the people up upstairs that actually own this building. And so I would do that, but and read the newspaper out loud, looking at myself. But then the other thing is, I just said it again, is the exercise, and it wasn't necessarily like an audition or, but it was mild, let's say for the sake of argument, a mild job interview sort of thing. So they put you in a room that does not have as many items in it as this one. And they say, okay, you need to speak constantly, like I do here, for 30 minutes, describing everything around you. And of course, it's radio, right? Describing everything around you because there's no video. such that someone listening would be able to paint a picture in their head about what's around you. So you would begin with, hey, how's it going? You know, it's Mike, and I'm here inside of a soundproof studio that's got a black air conditioner above me, along with microphones, and there's 3 pieces of yellow tape. Now, the 3 pieces of yellow tape are very significant because the nice thing about yellow tape is that you can see it even when the light's off. Turns out this is actually reflective yellow tape. And if you know anything about reflective yellow tape, well, then you know that it's obviously been used on I-95. Speaking of I-95, if you guys have ever been off of exit 15, doesn't it bother you that when you get off there's a Shell gas station that's right next to a Burger King? Well, that Burger King, turns out my friend Rachel worked there. Now, Rachel, of course, her brother Brian, 30 minutes later, and you notice in all of that, I don't believe I said and I could guarantee you there was not a piece of paper in front of me that I typed up prior to doing this live broadcast that had all those details. Now, one thing that is important to realize is that I've done this for a long time. So doing what I just did is literally, it's easier to do that than it is to tie my shoes, as they say. But also, I have massive mental problems. I have a level of ADD that, quite frankly, is fairly entertaining unless I need to be very diligent and work on an Excel spreadsheet. But if there's any creativity involved, then it's like, oh, these cells would be great if they were pink. This yellow one would be outstanding. In fact, everything that ends in 67 cents, I'm going to make blue. And then I'm going to make a macro that basically turns everything with 0.67 to 0.69. I'm going to make that blue, and then I'm going to vary the shade. So this is what happens when I walk around with this thing. This is what I can't get rid of. Now, imagine me in a studio with an additional person. So it's, you know, it's not a good place to go unescorted. I will tell you that right now. But that's how radio happens, ladies and gentlemen. I know it was conceived on a honeymoon in Chicago. Oh, wow. That's pretty efficient, actually. It's like get married. I mean, it's this sort of the way it's the infamous American dream, right? Go to high school, graduate, go to college, 4 years later, get a job, work at that job, get married, have kids, get married on the honeymoon, have a kid, 9 months later, first kid, you know, then like improve something and then start the, I was going to say 403B, but that's not, whatever the college fund is, like the 901 or whatever. So indeed, Joe, we have a word for that in Southern California. Free. For a $100 all you can fly on Air Asia. The next year, I believe it was, so to give you an idea of how long COVID lasted over here in comparison to potentially where you might have been, which was not Thailand, a year later in, I want to say March or April, or maybe it ends in March or April. Anyway, 1 year later with this Air Asia pass that I was talking about that Dave and I had, they re-upped, and any of us that signed up before, we got to be like the first people that, you know, basically signed up again. So there we are, and we signed up again. I believe we met up later in Bangkok. I know we didn't travel anywhere else after that. Now, I know that there was, and he's talked about this on his channel a ton, but I know, Dave, there was a scenario where like he was in the hospital and his girlfriend at the time, you know, she was there with her Thai family, and she helped, took care of him, extended his visa, basically made it so that all he had to do is lay there in the hospital and get better. Right. So, I mean, you want to talk about, you know, that's a pretty awesome first date. It's like, yeah, she's a keeper. And she is, right? And so now he's married, of course. And he even drives a Nissan hybrid. So, you know, he's married. I think the Nissan hybrid is basically the 2020 and plus equivalent to getting married and buying a Chevy Astrovan in the 80s. Am I right? Am I right? He asked himself. Just ask me. Ever since COVID ended, I have been on a cruise ship every other month. Mike got me through the 2 years of that BS. Captain Photon, are you doing that because you work there, or you're just like, no, I am never staying on land for longer than, you know? And the reason I ask you that is because Ryan, if you know, Eat Out Pattaya, who lives here, and actually Wednesday he left to go back to his ship because he's like the head of security on a ship. And so that's his job. So that's the reason he does it. But I'm always curious about people that like do it, you know, intentionally, if you will. But that can be a pretty good gig, man. I mean, I got to tell you, being on the water, like when I go to the islands, right? So Koh Larn, for example, that's real close here. Koh Si Chang, that's really the only way you can get there on a slow ferry. But the point is that I always look for the amount of the options of transportation that take the most amount of commute time on the water, because every additional minute that I am on the water, as far as I'm concerned, is an additional minute of awesome sauce. And I will find the slowest boat, which of course in Thailand is awesome because it's like the difference between 600 baht and like 6 baht. Mitch, do you know how much it costs to take the ferry over to Koh Larn? Yes. What if they're only a global information network, Mike, that you could type that in and figure that out on your own? Yes, Google will allow me to do that. But I'm just curious if you've been recently and if you know the cost. I want to say it's like 40 baht to get over, and I think it's about an hour, anyway, to Koh Larn. But when I get on boats, I mean, I love it, you know. Now, again, I've been in storms, like on a boat, and that's not real fun. I've never had the fear, though, that it's like, oh my God, you know, it's gonna be Titanic, you know, and we're all gonna go down with it. I've never had that sort of fear, and you know, I mean, again, it's kind of, I mean, boats are designed to float, right? Planes are designed to fly, and you know, so even if there's turbulence, here's a recommendation for any of you that are freaked out about turbulence. If possible, I know this is like a reach, but if possible, try this exercise, and sometimes it's not cheap, but if you can get up next to a plane that is flying in turbulence, so for example, somewhere that's like, you know there's going to be turbulence, that plane is up there, if you can get outside of it and look at it, and I know you're thinking, yeah, Mike, let me just open the exit door and hang on to the wing. No. I'm talking about like being in another plane or being in a helicopter, for example. This is how it really sort of solidified it for me. Now, I've talked to a number of pilots. No pilot has ever told me, oh, yeah, as a pilot. I mean, you just get used to it. No pilots like turbulence either. It just feels weird. But a lot of people, I would argue, have a concern. Not a fear, but they just have a concern. And let's face it, it just doesn't feel that great, right? I mean, if you're driving around in a 71 Cadillac and it starts bumping around, you're like, okay, I get it. You know, the transmission's probably shot. The windows go up and down, maybe, if I'm lucky. You know, but the point is that the ability to see a plane going through turbulence, it feels so much more horrendous than inside. You're never like cruising along and seeing a plane and it hits turbulence and goes, Phew. I mean, that's just, especially a large one. I mean, it's not, you know. So it's the way that it happens. But I know that like that freaks people out big time. And trust me, I don't like the feeling of it either. So, yeah, but boats, you know, I don't know. I've never sort of felt, oh, my God, what if we sink? It's kind of like, oh, what if the sun hits the earth? Look at me having a gratitude attack, Christy. Mike's, I finally see you live. Jub, jub, chest bump, and skadoosh, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming by Facebook and checking us out. You're my hero, young lady. How's it going in Southern California? I mean, I think it's still pretty cool there, right? It's still pretty cold there. She's in, like, Southern California, but she's not like, you know, San Diego, like right at the border. So probably where she lives, the Mexican food isn't epic like it is with me. Will there be a spot vehicle? The short answer is yes. I don't know the timing on that. I actually reached out. So you guys know Kitty, right? Robbie's girlfriend. And basically our managing director of the spot, or not our managing director of the spot. She's our managing director of the company that owns the spot. Because, again, Thai company, got to have a Thai managing director. Additionally, foreigners cannot own a broadcast station in Thailand. So basically, we have a Thai corporation that owns that. And Robbie and I are not, you know, listed as far as board members on that. And that's the way it goes. So Kitty, she helps us out big time, not the least of which is because, you know, Gracie helps us out big time. But, you know, Kitty also helps us out because, of course, she's Thai and she's part of the community and she's the owner, basically, of the Spot.fm. And so she has, her brother has a friend that owns one of these trucks, right, that you've probably seen in... Okay, so for example, if you've been to Thailand or maybe even you've seen videos of that, you've seen these like double-decker buses and they're like stretched. Some of them have like 35 speakers on the front or whatever, right? And it's like literally like this giant boombox. It's like driving down the street. Okay, he owns something similar to that. Imagine taking like a flat panel, I believe that's how you refer to it, as a flat panel truck. And there's the cab that you drive in. And then there's like the back and then there's the part that like goes over the cab, okay? So imagine all that part sans the cab filled with like speakers, and there's like grates and speakers and enormous amplifiers, and probably there's a little bit of lights and stuff. So her brother's friend owns one of these, and he rents it out to people to, so for example, the first time I saw it, it was in a parade here in Thailand, and they're driving down the street. Of course, the music is blasting, as was in front of them 2 more trucks that also had the same sort of setup and had the speakers going crazy. So the goal is to basically grab one of those and put spot banners, which I don't have yet. Put spot banners on it, and go to and drive up and down the beach playing the spot. Not ridiculously loud, but loud enough where people are like, "Hey, what's that?" You know, basically Ice Cream Man 2.0. So a little bit louder than the Ice Cream Man to get people's attention. And you know, stroke my ego. And so therefore, drive up and down, play the spot. So that's going to be sort of the first iteration of that. A spot vehicle, as far as like a station van or a mobile broadcast studio, that I definitely want to do. I want to be able to get out in the community, basically just drive my fantasy. This is my vision, Joe. I take the van, I either have a driver or I drive it to the beach. I park it at the beach. I put up the sides like you guys have seen in those food trucks, basically the smaller food trucks here in Thailand, where they like, it's completely, and then they like put up the sides and then they have signs at the top. The area inside is open and usually they'll be cooking in there or whatever, right? And do a live broadcast right from the beach, but if nothing else, just like play the music and get some visibility for the station. So that's sort of my vision for the spot vehicle, and I know that will show up in various forms over the next sort of 6 months primarily because of the COVID season, high season that is coming. Paul T, good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming by, and. Okay, so that's interesting. So Christy on Facebook, she gave like this little icon thingy. It looks like a jellyfish that's basically that's got cancer, but I can't click on it. That's really interesting. I can click on Tony's comment. Hey, buddy, good to see you, man. Tony, it is. Oh man, congratulations, dude, on your wild success. I love seeing your posts on Facebook about having one more day, because Tony and I have a gargantuan appreciation for just one more day. and living a day at a time, actually, it makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Always impressed with people with the gift of gab and mental problems. Well, then you need a T-shirt that says, "I know Mike's and I actually tolerate him." That's what we need to get the photon, man. That would be great. Your mind sounds like a little weird Disneyland. Yeah, believe me, it's even more crazy than that. It's kind of like Tower of Doom in Disneyland turned sideways and then attached to Space Mountain with all of the lights on. You guys have ever been to Space Mountain specifically in Southern California in Anaheim, and they have the lights on inside? Oh my God! Because I mean, you're on a roller coaster, right? And it's one of those deals where it's got like the round pipes as far as the frame goes, or at least it was when I was there. I mean, I haven't been there. Gracie and I, last time I was there, we were there. I want to say like 2018. And anyway, so inside Space, they have a roller coaster, right? And of course, it's completely black. But there's like lights hanging. I mean, it's like a disaster. You're like, oh my God, how is this thing working? I mean, you turn the lights on in there and it looks like a disaster, AKA Mike's filthy brain. So there you go. Mitch is missing Ryan already. He's a good dude, isn't he? And I got to tell you, man, congrats on the gig that he got. That just sounds like one of these, dream jobs. I will tell you that I had a dream job until my dream job wasn't my dream job. 30 baht for that ferry. Okay, guys, so here's the thing. We need to talk about that. We can blow off my career later. We can talk about my career later. Let's blow that off. 30 baht. I would just pay 60 baht and just get on the boat, take it to the island, wait for them to turn around, and drive back. That would be a perfect, provided the weather's decent, right? That would be up there with like one of the top 10 perfect sort of afternoons for me. Get on a boat, like take it out, take it back. I've done that in Boston before too. They have the commuter boat, which is not, it's not as neat as like a wooden ferry that basically goes at about 7 kilometers an hour. Sorry, 6 knots. Whoa, jump back on myself. Did I seriously go kilometers per hour when I was talking about driving on the water? Mike, I'm going to need you to focus, bro. Focus. 30 baht each way all day long. What do you think the cheapest speedboat is? Either direction, Mitch. Probably at least 300 baht, right? Semi-retired, Captain Photon. Just feel like being on a ship. It's great, and the ladies are sweet. Very cool, man. Good for you. That's really neat. I'm glad you're doing that. Matt, my buddy, who's watching/listening on Facebook, he also gave me an airplane icon, which I can't display here in the comments, so I apologize for that. But thanks a lot, Matt. You also are one of my very, very good friends that believe in one day at a time, amigo, all day long. Jumped out of planes in the Army. Yeah, why would anyone jump out of a perfectly good airplane, right? Isn't that the joke? Beautiful in San Diego. Good to hear. I mean, it's October. September and October, arguably for me, September was like one of the best months. End of August into September, because it's the hottest one. So that was great. June, if you don't know, sucks big time, donkey dick, in San Diego, because we refer to it as June gloom. If I'm going to live in a community that's right on the beach, I'm going to live on the beach, at the beach. So I lived on this like island, basically. It's an isthmus, technically, but they call it Coronado Island. So I lived there, about a block away, walked to the beach, walked to Hotel del Coronado, if you guys are familiar with that. And so I'm right at the water. And there would be this marine layer that would just hang over the water till like sometimes 1, 2 in the afternoon. Some days it wouldn't go away at all. And that's June. And that is bummer sauce. And it was really depressing to the point where it got like so cold in May and June. Gracie and I said, forget it. We like hopped on a plane and went to Florida for a long weekend. Flew into Fort Lauderdale, rented a car. I only know it as Alligator Alley. I know it's probably like the I-75 or 70 or something like this. But the point is that took it all the way over to the West Coast. Didn't know Joe at the time. But we went a little bit up the West Coast and then St. Pete, an area for like 2 days, and then back to Fort Lauderdale, and then back to San Diego. Landed in beautiful Southern California, San Diego, and we're freezing shortly thereafter. Oh, my Buddha. The studio is awesome. You're amazeballs, my friend. Much love. TakesOneToKnowOne.com, Matt. That's all I got for you, buddy. God, I love that guy. Here's the thing about moving to Thailand, and Robbie and I will talk more in depth about this on the Big Mattress morning show. Saturdays, which will probably will start Saturday, November 4th. I believe that is the Saturday. I could look it up, but bottom line, first Saturday in November, Robbie and I will be back with the Big Mattress, and the awesome will basically just begin from then and continue ad nauseum. The studio is in progress, Matt. I will not debate your assessment of it being awesome, but it's not. Don't forget, radio is the same as basically doing a YouTube live stream. It's smoke and mirrors all day long. So you got a line message, and I checked my phone. Oh, so you're right. Yeah, because of the incoming sound, right? I mean, it's like Pavlovian almost, isn't it, Mariano? That was Robbie actually calling me back. And but what I wanted to do, if it is today, ideally I would have gone live at 8 a.m. here in Thailand time. But again, I wanted to do this, and I really don't have an appointment till noon. So I keep looking up at a digital clock, by the way. That's why I keep doing that. There's another guy that's leasing one of the radio stations that broadcast out of here, and he's having an issue with his laptop or his computer, basically, regardless of whether it's a laptop or a desktop, staying connected to the internet, and so therefore his stream goes down sometimes, and he gets dead air. So I'm going to help him install TeamViewer, a remote management system that I do not like. I'm not a big fan of TeamViewer. I use this one called Jump Desktop, and it is awesome. It is so lightweight. And the other thing is it's designed to be free, and it's kind of like, if you want to donate money, that's great, but there's no, TeamViewer is effectively like a paywall just waiting to happen, and I'm not a fan of that company. So anyway, he's got TeamViewer, so I'm going to help him. So point is, I got 2 hours to basically chat with you guys. I also really miss doing a marathon stream, and this chair, decent enough. I might have to because it's a stand-up console, this desk, if you can't tell. So I'm like sitting on a stool. I'm on a stool. This is a stool sample you're seeing me on right now. So there you go. And if you don't touch it, it doesn't count. So one of the things that Joe and I completely agree on is like if you're walking somewhere and there's like a destination. So let's say, for example, for me, the most common thing is I'm walking on a sandy beach and I get to the end of that sandy beach, not because I want it to stop, but because nature was like, we're going to put some rocks here. So those rocks basically, impede your ability to go more sand. And so the thing that's important to realize is that if you get all that way and there's a sign there or there's a rock there or something, that entire walk, let's agree right now, does not count unless you touch something. And usually it's it. Joe and I have a very simple agreement on what it is. And we basically don't talk about it in public. But if you don't touch it, it doesn't count. So you have to like find something of significance. Sometimes it's a sign, sometimes it's a boob, and sometimes it's a rock. And if you don't touch it, then it doesn't count. Then you want to get credit for the pickup. If you guys know anything about Seinfeld, you got to get credit for the pickup. And so therefore you have to touch it or it doesn't count. Mr. Mitch has ridden the Seattle to Bainbridge Island ferries many times back and forth without disembarking on the other side because, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mitch is our, yes, we all said it at the same time, hero. Ride on the top deck on a Sunday afternoon and enjoy. Absolutely. There is something so much better on a sunny day when salt water splashes on your face versus like fresh water. I don't know why that is. For me, I have these great memories of my childhood being out on the boat, whaler, Boston whaler, and it would be really sunny, like, because that's the cool thing about New England, actually. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a more beautiful place in the summers when it's hot and humid and sunny, like July and August, basically in New England. And to be out on a boat on, you know, basically, obviously salt water, not a lake, but like out in the ocean kind of thing, harbors. And you're cruising along. I only had like a 13-foot Boston whaler, 13 foot 6 inches, 13-foot whaler, and 35 horsepower Evinrude. So there you go. 2-cycle, no big whoop. And, you know, you go through, and we would purposely like find waves to like jump over, and the waves would come crash. So you would get salt water on you, right? Whatever. And then you would be coming back home. And of course, as you guys know, when you're in the channel, right, you got to go slower. So we're in the channel. We're doing 6 knots, no big whoop. And you're drying off. And one of the best memories I have of my childhood would be coming home at the end of like the day or the weekend or whatever. We had been cruising around the whole time. We drive in on the boat, get ready to go to the ramp to like put it on the trailer to bring it home. And you've been sitting for a little bit and you're dry, right? So the sun would dry you off, but then it was salt water. So then you'd get like the salt film on you, right? And I would like, you would turn like this and you would just feel like the dry salt on your skin, and it would like it wouldn't crack. It wasn't like you did like a mud bath kind of thing, and it was like weird like that. But it just for me, it just felt so good. And the fact that it was warm out, that didn't hurt either. But yeah, like that dried salt, that would just be like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't know. Do you guys have anything like that? And obviously, you're limited to what is YouTube? What is the limit? Is it like 256 characters or something like that? I can't remember, but would love to hear your stories of childhood that were like, oh, dude, if I could do this again, I would do it for fun and for free for the rest of my life. Captain Photon equals Ricky Nelson. The Photon is here. Ah, very good. I didn't realize you were dual personality. I got that going on as well. Actually, there's a lot more than 2 up there. Yeah, dude, doing the whole boat thing. I mean, again, like I always say, any time on the water is got to be good time, But I mean, there's not the desire to go on the Titanic, if you know what I mean. Hey, Mike, you rock. Well, Paul, I can't debate that. Thank you so much, buddy. Paul is my buddy who I went to. I know we were in high school. I mean, he grew up in the same town, so we went to the same school system the whole time. But I don't believe we were basically, oh, no, I do remember. We hung out in junior high because Paul and I, for some reason, we simultaneously would get detention at the same time. And what was horrible is I don't believe that we got detention and it from the same teacher or whatever, but we ended up in detention at the end of the school day. And regularly, we would sit at the same table, which was arguably the least intelligent, non-proactive thing we possibly could have done, because Paul and I would sit at the table, and I don't know what we would talk about, but we would laugh about everything. And we would, because detention, right? You're supposed to be quiet. You work on your homework. You're being punished, right? So you're not supposed to be enjoying yourself. I mean, they're not throwing darts at the back of your head because, of course, it was a public school system. In private school, I understand how you can do that. But in public school, no. And we would I don't know how many times we got an additional detention, but you know that scene in Breakfast Club where the professor comes in and, professor, listen, you can tell I worked in higher ed. They're not the teacher, or maybe it was like the vice principal or whatever. He comes in to the scenario, right? And there's that guy that's got the boots. He's supposed to be a real tough guy or whatever. And I think he's like smoking inside or whatever. And he does something wrong. So the guy's like, you'll be back here next Saturday. And then he does something like, hey, screw you, next Saturday. You're going to be here for like a month of Saturdays? So imagine that scenario without the boots, without me and Paul smoking indoors, and then basically just like, the teacher's probably just, rolling his eyes. He's like, all right, you guys are stupid, but you're going to be back here again, like tomorrow or the next day. Now, I don't remember that happening a lot of time, but I do remember Paul and I hanging out junior high, having way too much fun in detention. So, we're quite the scholarly team, actually. Speedboat prices are all over the map. $3,300 per person on a shared boat is typical. That's what I thought. I thought it was about, I didn't know it was like 10x, but it's so awesome, right? Because Mitch, can you imagine taking 5 round trips and still not being at the level of a speedboat? I met someone, was it at the table when we were there, and someone was like, oh yeah, I always take the speedboat. And I'm like, dude, I never take the speedboat. Let's say I needed to get there, and these two things absolutely are a requirement to be together. The water would have to be glass flat, because it's not, there's a harbor basically here. Kind of, but at the end of the day, you're pretty much out in the Gulf of Thailand. And the minute you get a little bit off the beach. So it's not flat. It's usually pretty choppy. And I've done the speedboat thing, and wham, wham, wham. And it's not a wham, wham, enjoyable wham. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Wham, I am Mr. Michael. Okay, very good. So now we've gotten the whole thing out of my head. So I'm not going to think about George Michael. And I'm probably not going to walk around going, wham, bam, I am. And I'm never going to say that again. Until now. Wham! Okay, now I'm going to say it again. No lady boys, Mike. No touch. Copy that, Joe. Up top. Skadoosh. You know what that actually deserves, don't you? Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. You're going to have the magic bell. Oh, yeah. We'll call that the ladyboy bell from now on. And basically, the ladyboy bell signifies that I've said something incredibly important. Just ask me. Take care, Mike. Always good to see you. Captain Photon, a.k.a. Ricky Nelson. Thank you so much for coming by, sir. And enjoy your next boat trip. That sounds awesome. Take care, Mike. Yes, you take care as well. When I was a kid, I swam the Hudson River from New Jersey to New York City. How far is that? Is that the equivalent of basically swimming the English Channel? I assume that the Hudson River is not for the faint of heart. Too funny. You remember that, dude? Oh, God, that was friggin' hilarious. So funny. You could be. Yeah, it was. People are like, "What, did you have a blessed childhood?" I'm like, "What, are you kidding me? That's just one story." And then, of course, Paul and I, right, we would hang out Brigham's. You remember that, dude? You remember? I don't even know how old. I'm sure we were in high school, but I vaguely recall it being towards the end of high school, like we were driving at that time. And we would hang out in front of Brigham's. I can't remember. That's an ice cream shop, basically. It's like it is an ice cream. Yes, Brigham's ice cream, and they still sell and make Brigham's ice cream. But Brigham's, the building, the company would have these stores, and they would have 6 or 7 booths, French fries, hamburgers, hot dogs, salads, that sort of thing. But of course, ice cream, and ice cream was their thing. We still probably owe at least the one, yeah. I don't know how. I honestly don't remember. There weren't a lot, but I do remember at some point having this feeling I think my mom and dad are gonna. This isn't good. This isn't gonna work out well. Explaining this is gonna be difficult. Speedboats can beat the heck out of you. I'm retired. I have the hour it takes to get there on the ferry. I absolutely agree with that. One of the things that I said when I moved over here a lot more regularly, right? Certainly the longer vacations, the mini retirements, as the 4-hour work week will refer to. But then when I got over here, I'm like, I so have an hour. I so have 2 hours. And I live life on vacation. That's absolutely the way to go. Absolutely. My buddy Robbie, walking in my shoes. How you doing, dude? I got to tell you something. Here's the interesting thing. Inside this studio, We really need like a big ass fan. And if there's any way that you guys know of maybe a company that makes a big ass fan, if we could just have like a big ass fan in here and we would call it appropriately, of course, a big ass fan. But I mean, that's a fantasy. To think about maybe having a big ass fan, I can't even imagine. To have a big ass fan, it would basically make your life a whole lot better. 2 miles to cross the Hudson, dude. How many of you guys that learned how to swim early on, when you heard an adult, when you were a little kid learning how to swim, you heard an adult say the breaststroke? How do you get past that at like 11 or 12 years old when you're trying to get your, what do they call it? They didn't call it life-saving. What do they call that, like first level of basically being able to be a lifeguard? I can't remember what that's called. But when the adults would say breaststroke, I mean, how can you not giggle? They got to really come up with a better name of that for kids that are like under, I don't know, how old am I? 50, basically. If you're under 50, then probably when you hear breaststroke, you don't giggle. I, on the other hand, being the juvenile that I am, breaststroke. That's what I'm talking about. When I was a kid, I ate a box of Lucky Charms. Wow. An entire box. Did you have milk with it? I got to tell you, so Gracie and I are at this Renaissance place, which is a Marriott property, the other day, and of course they had this buffet that was just okay. Guys, Mitch, if you're still around, if you haven't been down to the Renaissance in Nha Jom Tien, it is hands down one of the best buffet breakfasts, all you can eat kind of thing that I've been to for. Let's see. So the total bill was like 900 and something baht. So I think it's like one of these like $4.99 or $4.95 per person buffets. It was phenomenal. Now, the breakfast buffet brunch thing, awesome sauce at the Hilton is very nice on Sundays, but it's very expensive. For less than base, that's like $15 per person. I was really impressed. And you know how they have like an omelet station or whatever, and they make, you choose the. So they had an omelet thing, and then they had like I got French toast. They had a French toast / pancakes thing, and interestingly enough, the chef that was making the French toast is from, wait for it, Paris. So the French toast was genuine. I've had thick French toast before, and if you guys like French toast, I would submit to be a connoisseur of French toast. You need to put like 4 or 5 eggs in a bowl. And then you take, I think a lot of people in the U.S. will refer to it as Texas toast just because it's thick. But absolutely the thickest toast you can get. And you soak it in the egg, like for as long as you can basically wait. Which for me, I'm impatient. I can't wait that long. But you soak it in the egg. And then you make that your French toast. And then the inside of it is still a little bit gooey when you pull it off of the pan. But what was interesting about the way this guy made French toast is he had it in, a pan. But I swear, there had to have been like a ½ inch of oil. I mean, he was basically deep frying this French toast. It was outstanding. It was probably in the top 3 best French toasts I've ever had. Now, I've never been to France, so I've never had French fries, and I've never had French toast. Now, I've French kissed someone before without going to France. So, I got a little bit of worldly going on in my emotional backpack, but that's about. But a whole box of Lucky Charms. I don't know if they had Lucky Charms available. It was a Marriott property, right? So therefore, if you've ever been to like a Marriott property and had their buffet breakfast, they have those cylinders that are clear inside, and then they put the cereal in there, and then you crank the thing at the bottom, and then the cereal flows out. I believe they had those. The food, though, it was outstanding. Now, Gracie she wanted scrambled eggs. It kind of looked like a scrambled egg / omelet combo. It was like kind of an omelet. I think she had like green peppers and tomatoes in it and stuff. But man, it was good. And it included, beverage, right? So it's like water and juice and, well, there's the juice cylinders as well inside. So that was pretty cool. But man, if you guys get a chance, go down to Nha Jom Tien, the Renaissance, for breakfast. It's they have it 6:30 until 11. Totally worth it. I'm a big fan. Hello, Robbie. Hello, Joe. Look at my shirt. Robert is not the only one that's going to be manning those shirts. We need to get some ladyboys in those shirts. I know Robbie agrees with me on that one. The good old days of Brigham's. Yeah, I got to tell you. When I went home over the summer, my dad's favorite ice cream is vanilla. from Brigham's, and so I would go to the Big Y. Here's what's interesting about us having a grocery chain where I grew up called the Big Y. First of all, you look at it and you're like, okay, Biggie, right? I mean, B-I-G-Y. How do you pronounce that? Biggie, but no, it's Big Y. And people think, oh my God, that's so, I was like, well, I mean, we have the Big C over here, and, the Big C word, I do not think that would go well in the United States. I cannot see the Big C just being, comfortable. That would not work for me. But yeah, Brigham's was pretty awesome there for a while. If we could only get a big-ass fan, if there was only, say a company that made big-ass fans, if one day we could find a company that made big-ass fans and get ourselves a big-ass fan over here, oh, my fantasies would just come true. Because this AC unit behind me, it is not a big-ass fan. It is a black-ass fan, but it's not a big-ass fan. I still giggle at breaststroke. See, thank you, Joe. I don't laugh at fart jokes. I will tell you that. I don't resonate with them. I never have. But breaststroke? Come on. I mean, that's just like double click. That's like next finish. I'm going to laugh. Look up Joey Schwartz. He has a big fan for sale and antique. He's a big ass fan, or he's a big fan? Isn't it funny how he typed Joe Schwartz, but I said Joey Schwartz? Because that's how we referred to him when we were in junior high and high school on his Facebook page. Does he have a marketplace, or is it on his own page? Robbie can't find ladyboys. He did look. I know. Oh, yeah, you're talking about his video that actually he and I did when we were on 6-1. Yeah, that was pretty funny, actually. It was, I don't know if it was still COVID. I don't know if you can still call it COVID, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, we were in recovery from COVID over here. And, 6-1 is, of course, the back door of Soy 6, which arguably it has, some ladyboys hanging out back there. And so Robbie and I were actually walking back there a while ago. This didn't make it on video, thank God, because I didn't want any proof. But we're walking along, and there's this one ladyboy, and she says something to me or whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you all the details, but at the end of the day, I discovered that she's had the full operation. Yes, she told me. And I believe she told me her name was Elisa. Now, Robbie and I mean, obviously, that's interesting, right? But Robbie and I, we walk away and we walk back because we're like, dude, we have got to interview this chick. I mean, because when she told me that, I'm like, oh my God, I have so many questions. I have spirit fingers. I have so many questions. What did it cost? Was there any pain involved? What was the bruising like? Because if you've ever seen a woman who's had the implants, right? I mean, afterwards, the bruising can be pretty significant. And I'm sure they're much better at it now than when I'm trying to think the first friend I had that had that operation. And I want to say it was the girl named Kim, and it was probably 1990. Oh boy, 98 maybe. But she had that done. She was the first person that I ever knew as a friend. She was a coworker, and she had that done. And I recall that she was walking around like this for probably around the hallways and stuff. Because I guess you get a big bandage that goes around the thing. But if I recall correctly, she didn't show me or anything. But if I recall correctly, she commented that there was bruising. But what is that like? How do you feel? The first person I ever met, first ladyboy that I met that ever had the full operation, probably, I want to say it was New Year's Eve 2015. It was either 2014 or 2015, one of those. Soy 6, and I'm on Beach Road for New Year's Eve, and the fireworks are going, right? And so I'm up on Soy 6 for some ungodly reason, who knows why. And but what's interesting about the Thais that work in that industry, right? During certain time, they actually would prefer to just hang out with their friends. And so, you don't get a whole lot of masa, take me, I go with you, whatever. There wasn't a whole lot of that, at least on that night. They wanted to hang out with their friends. So it's New Year's Eve and, friends, right? And of course, there's fireworks. It's party. It's an absolute disaster. It's awesome. And so I'm talking to this, and she says, oh, yeah, I've had the whole operation. And the thing that I find most memorable about that conversation that I reflect on, probably at least once every 2 to 3 months, something pops into my head and I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, because I guess she had, I don't believe she did the whole thing in one shot. I believe she had the implants and then got the whole operation, gender reassignment. And, what if there were only like 2 words that were really, really cool that we could use in a video over and over again, other than big ass fan? Gender reassignment. I think gender reassignment would be a great couple of words to be able to use talking about gender reassignment, or if you're in a gender reassignment video, or if you find a doctor that normally does gender reassignment. I think gender reassignment is really one of the coolest things that can ever happen to someone who wants gender reassignment. So this person had gender reassignment. I'm going to call her a girl. She had gender reassignment. And the story she tells that I always reflect on is she goes, and I got out of the shower and all the bruising was gone and the bandages were off. She said, I looked at myself in the mirror, and these are the words that I'll never forget. She said, I finally felt normal. And I think back to like my childhood, and there are some times where you feel uncomfortable because you're not cool, or some loser is like bullying you, David Chase. And being a jerk and not basically, letting you enjoy your walk from the bus station home as you walk down the street. David Chase, who I hope basically has had some degree of personal bankruptcy, be it spiritual, emotional, physical, financial. That would be really great. David Chase. If you think that bullying someone doesn't have any consequences, David Chase, well, think again, David Chase, because it does. And so anyway, maybe at that time I kind of felt a little uncomfortable in my own skin, right? I was like, this, like my world was basically lousy, mainly because of David Chase, who thought he would be my bully in, I want to say, elementary school or whatever. But I actually don't think David Chase ever graduated anything past 6th grade, because David Chase was a bully, and David Chase should basically go to jail. So that was him. That was probably the only time where I sort of literally felt uncomfortable in my own skin. I've had those moments like on stage where I was like embarrassed kind of thing. But to hear this person say, I finally felt normal, I was like, wow. Because, I've had many moments of feeling normal I feel very normal sitting here right now. It's the AC is old and it's black and it's not a big ass fan, so therefore it's lame. But it doesn't work great. So right now I feel a little air, but it's not cooling. And then in about 15 minutes, it'll be like, 19 degrees Kelvin in here because of the compressor that goes on and off incorrectly. So, but right now I feel pretty normal. And to think that like there would be so many scenarios in your life, and I'm sure there were scenarios where she felt normal. Like I'm sure like during her birthday, or when she would hang out with her family, or when she would eat rice, with like a bunch of friends, they sit on the ground and they have, I'm sure there were moments. But for her to like label it that way, I first of all, I'll never forget that, obviously, because I'm going through this, scenario. But it was a very interesting thing. And so what was lame was that when Robbie and I met this lady boy that had gender reassignment, David Chase, gender reassignment, David Chase, then she was open to talking, didn't want to be interviewed on camera for sure, and was like, nah, I don't really want to. At the end of the day, she's working, right? So she wanted to do what she does to work to basically make money. I get that. So she was like, okay, these guys like want to interview me for YouTube. Okay, well, that's not going to bring me 2,000 baht. That's not a short time. So anyway, I'll never forget that. And that was interesting. And I did not, I want to say her name is Elisa. Is it Lisa or Elisa? I can't remember exactly, but let's just call her Elisa. Because if we don't call her Elisa, then we're going to call her David Chase. And of course, David Chase was a loser bully. So we're not going to call her that because she was able to find comfort in her own skin. So I have a lot more respect for Elisa, the transgender that had gender reassignment, than I do for loser David Chase. So I think when Robbie gets back here, he and I need to go back on that soy. I've been back there twice at approximately the same time at night. One time it was like 7 at night. It had just gotten dark, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I walked down there. There's literally nobody. And I think the second time I walked down there, I want to say, oh, man, again, me being out late, right? So it's probably like 9:30. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk. And she wasn't there again. But I'm like, man, I have so many questions. Like, what was it like? And so anyway. Worst part of the operation is to have your brain removed. Yeah, see, that would be, I don't know. I mean, that might be kind of comforting for me. So, who knows? Funny you are, as always. Just ask me. 8 people watching. We are in an hour and 25 minutes and 35, 36, 37 seconds of broadcast here, my friends. And it is about 10:40, and I actually haven't spoken to Robbie. I know he hopped in, but we were actually going to talk on the phone. So I think what I will do is I will say thank you guys so much for watching version 2.5.1 of the ImprompTUBE live stream, streaming my ass off. With that, I am Mike's from livemyassoff.com, and if you guys would do me a gargantuan favor, go to the spot.fm, tell all your friends, please download that app, and don't forget, 9 a.m. on Fridays, 7 a.m. on Sundays, Bangkok time. You're going to want to be in that app. You're going to want to click on bkk.fm, and you're going to want to listen to the Bangkok podcast, which, as Joe was nice enough to remind us, you guys can find out information on by going to their website, the Bangkok Pod. Actually, hold on. Is it the Bangkok Podcast? I actually think it is Bangkok Podcast. It is. It's BangkokPodcast.com. And let me just verify because I want to make sure that I know. Yeah. So the Bangkok Podcast, their website is Bangkok Podcast. Episode 61, which just finished airing about 30 minutes ago on bkk.fm. I'm actually going to throw that on the spot.fm, which will also air on 95 FM here in Pattaya. So that's going to air at 7 a.m. on Sunday. And so episode 61, 7 a.m. on Sunday here, Bangkok time. Thai tourism on its way to a full recovery, but is that a good thing? So it's neat. They're going to give a comparison and contrast sort of thing on that episode. 7 a.m. Bangkok time, either bkk.fm or the spot.fm. And with that, it's Mike's from livemyassoff.com saying, I hope you're living the dream, because if you are not living the dream, then you're doing it wrong, and you're probably a total loser, just like David